Chosen one, stop scrolling. This message didn't find you by chance. It found you because this video is about God's message reaching you in divine alignment, at the exact moment your spirit was ready and your doubts were running out of time. What you're about to hear isn't motivation or entertainment. It's a prophetic confirmation of your spiritual awakening, explaining why you were drawn here now and what changes once you truly listen. You didn't pause because the title looked interesting. You paused because something inside you went quiet. That stillness is recognition, the soul remembering truth before the mind interferes. This video reveals how divine alignment activates, why chosen ones recognize truth without explanation, and what happens next when God's message bypasses the noise and speaks directly to those prepared to receive it. Stay with this, because if this moment feels personal, it's not coincidence. It's calling. I am speaking directly to you because you are one of the chosen ones, not chosen to be admired, not chosen to feel superior, chosen to carry responsibility, clarity and light in a time when confusion is rewarded and truth is resisted. You have felt this for years, even if you never had language for it. You sensed that your life was being shaped differently, slowed in some areas, pressured in others, and guided in ways you could not explain to anyone around you. That was not imagination. That was preparation. Divine alignment is not coincidence. It is sequence. It is timing that cannot be forced and cannot be missed. You were guided here because your spiritual awakening has reached a point where denial no longer works. God's message reaches people only when avoidance has expired. This message could not have reached you earlier, and it will not reach everyone now. It finds those who are ready to be accountable to what they already know inside. You may have noticed that when truth shows up in your life, it does not excite you the way entertainment does. It sobers you, it steadies you, it makes you quiet. That is because truth carries weight, and weight demands presence. God does not compete for attention. God positions moments. This is one of those moments. And if you receive this fully, it will change your life, not by adding something new, but by confirming what has always been there. Your spiritual awakening did not begin today. Today is simply the confirmation. Awakening often begins as discomfort, as a sense that the world moves too fast in the wrong direction, as an inner resistance to shallow answers and borrowed beliefs. You have always felt that your life required depth, integrity, and meaning, even when that made things harder. That was the divine calling forming quietly. That was the chosen one being shaped long before the assignment became clear. God's message is not here to flatter you. It is here to activate you. It is here to remind you that the war you have felt is real, even when it looked invisible. A war for attention, for truth, for conscience, for light. You are not imagining the pressure. You are not imagining the tension between who you are and what the world rewards. That tension exists because your light is necessary, and necessary things are always contested. This message is not random because your life is not random. Every delay, every separation, every season where you felt out of place was part of alignment. God prepares before He reveals. He builds before He sends. And when the time comes, confirmation arrives without confusion. That is what this moment is. A confirmation that you were called, that you are not late, and that your awareness is not a burden but a responsibility. If you feel this landing quietly but deeply, if something inside you is saying, "This is true," acknowledge that alignment now by commenting 777. Not for me, but as a signal to yourself that you recognize what is happening. Let me be clear with you. You are not crazy for seeing what others ignore. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are not lost because your path did not resemble the crowd. You were being trained to stand when others scatter, to stay clear when others panic, and to carry light without needing applause. God does not give light to those who want attention. He gives it to those who can be trusted with it. Circle back to this truth now. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the call. The war is real, but so is the protection. The pressure is real, but so is the purpose. Your light is not optional. It is necessary. And the fact that you are here right now is proof that the next phase has already begun inside you. If this touched your soul, if you felt that quiet certainty rise up without needing explanation, comment 111. Because you know it now, without doubt or fear. You were called. Why you, Steve, always felt different from the world. Chosen one, this feeling of being different did not begin recently. It has been with you for as long as you can remember. Even before you had words for it, you sensed that you did not move through life the same way others did. While the world around you chased noise, approval, and surface-level success, something inside you remained watchful, restrained, and alert. That difference was never a flaw. It was never social awkwardness or emotional sensitivity. It was the early imprint of your divine calling. This is God's message, reminding you that you are not imagining your experience. You were guided long before you understood guidance. You carried responsibility before you were given authority. You felt pressure without being told why. That inner weight you've always carried is not trauma, and it is not weakness. It is the mark of a chosen one, being prepared quietly, away from recognition, away from praise, away from shortcuts. You may have noticed that you always felt older inside than your environment. Even as a child, you sensed consequences, patterns, and truths that others overlooked. You matured internally faster, not because life hardened you, but because awareness was placed in you early. Spiritual awakening often begins as seriousness, not spirituality. It shows up as restraint, as an unwillingness to fully give yourself to shallow things, as a discomfort with dishonesty, even when dishonesty would make life easier. That discomfort was alignment forming. God's preparation rarely looks dramatic from the outside. It happens through silence, through delays, through being misunderstood, and through watching rather than rushing. You learn to observe people, not because you were distant, but because discernment was being trained. You learn to hold your tongue, not because you were afraid, but because timing was being installed in you. These were not personality traits. They were tools. Being a chosen one often means being misunderstood. Others may have called you serious, intense, distant, or hard to read. Some may have felt uncomfortable around you without knowing why. Light exposes without trying. Presence confronts without speaking. That is why you were never meant to blend in fully. God does not sharpen instruments by making them identical. He separates them for purpose. There has always been an inner restraint in you, a sense that your actions mattered more than most. You felt consequences before consequences arrived. You sensed when something was off before it became obvious. This is not anxiety. This is responsibility. Chosen ones feel responsibility early because they are being trained to carry weight later. The war you have felt is real, even when no one around you named it. A war between truth and illusion, depth and distraction, light and noise. Your spiritual awakening did not come from books or teachers first. It came from life itself, from moments where you felt guided away from things that looked appealing but felt wrong. From moments where you were protected from paths you did not yet understand, would have cost you everything. God speaks through redirection long before revelation. You were being led even when you thought you were wandering. You were never meant to be reckless with your energy, your words, or your presence. That is why you often felt out of sync with a world that celebrates excess and speed. Chosen ones move carefully because they sense impact. They know instinctively that what they do echoes further than they can see, that knowing is not learned. It is placed. Circle back to this truth now. This is a message from God. You are not imagining why you felt different. You are not broken for feeling pressure where others feel nothing. You were called, and calling always comes with weight before it comes with clarity. The war is real, but so is your preparation. Your light is necessary precisely because it has been tested in quiet places. You are not behind. You are not late. You were being built internally while others were distracted externally. And now, as alignment tightens and truth becomes harder to avoid, what was formed in silence is beginning to stand. If this touched your soul, if these words felt like recognition instead of information, comment 111, because you know it now, without explanation or fear. You were called. Understanding God says, End Times Plan, Chosen One. This is where many people misunderstand what is happening in the world. And this misunderstanding is exactly why fear spreads so easily. God's end times plan was never meant to terrify those who are aligned. Fear belongs to confusion, not to truth. And this is God's message to you now. The end times are not about destruction for the sake of destruction. They are about separation, exposure, and alignment. They are about revealing what is real and what cannot stand anymore. You were never meant to approach this season with panic. Panic clouds discernment, and discernment is what chosen ones are required to carry. The end times are not chaos running wild. They are order being restored. When systems shake, it is not because God has lost control. It is because what was built without truth cannot survive pressure. Exposure always looks like disorder to those who benefited from illusion. This is why chosen ones are born into transitional generations. You were not placed here to escape this time, but to stand steady within it. Transitional generations feel heavier because they sit between what is collapsing and what has not yet fully formed. That weight you feel is not random. It is the weight of witnessing, of holding clarity while others react emotionally. God assigns certain souls to these periods because they can see beyond the moment and carry calm when certainty disappears. God's end times plan is a spiritual sorting, not a random shaking. It separates wisdom from noise, truth from performance, depth from distraction. This is why you may notice that as pressure increases globally, people polarize internally. Some rush toward extremes, others lose themselves in distraction, and a few become quieter, clearer, and more grounded. Those few are not disengaging, they are aligning. You were built for steadiness. That is why your spiritual awakening did not come with hysteria or obsession. It came with sobriety. It came with clarity. It came with an internal sense that things matter more now, that choices carry weight, that integrity is no longer optional. God is not looking for loud believers in this season. He is positioning reliable carriers of light. Notice how God always positions people before events, not after. Noah was prepared before rain. Joseph was trained before famine. Esther was placed before crisis. God does not react. He arranges. Your life has felt delayed, slowed, or restrained at times because positioning requires patience. You were being shaped internally so that when external systems began to shake, you would not shake with them. The war you sense is not only external, it is internal. A war for perception, for attention, for truth. Lies move fast in end times because fear feeds them. Truth moves calmly because it does not need urgency. This is why your role is not to panic or persuade, but to remain clear. Light does not argue with darkness. It simply reveals. God's end times plan does not require you to predict dates or obsess over collapse. It requires you to embody stability, wisdom, and moral clarity when others lose their footing. This is why chosen ones are often misunderstood in these times. Calm looks like indifference to those who live on adrenaline. Discernment looks like hesitation to those addicted to reaction. But your stillness is not avoidance. It is strength. Circle back to the beginning now and hear this clearly. This is a message from God. You are not imagining what you are sensing. You were called for this season, not to hide from it. The war is real, but so is the strategy. And the strategy is not fear. It is alignment. Your light is necessary because it is steady, because it does not flicker with headlines or collapse with pressure, because it reminds others without preaching that something solid still exists. You are not here to save the world by force. You are here to stand as proof that truth still produces peace. This is not a time to shrink. It is a time to be rooted, not louder, but clearer, not reactive, but anchored. God's end times plan is unfolding exactly as it must, and you are not late to it. You are right on time. If this touched your soul, if it replaced fear with clarity and weight with purpose, comment 111. Because you know it now, beyond doubt or noise, you were called. Why your generation was selected for this role? Chosen one, your generation was not chosen by chance. You were placed here with intention, precision, and foresight. This is God's message making something clear that you may have sensed for years, but never fully articulated. The pressure your generation carries is not accidental. It is proportional to the assignment placed upon you. Increased pressure has always meant increased responsibility in God's design, and you are living in one of the most demanding spiritual environments humanity has known. You were born into an age of speed, noise, and constant stimulation. Technology connects everything, but it also fragments attention. Information is everywhere, yet wisdom is rare. Opinions multiply, but truth is diluted. This environment creates confusion for many, but it sharpens discernment in chosen ones. God placed you here because you can navigate complexity without losing your center. Where others drown in noise, you were trained to hear what matters. Previous generations carried different assignments. Some were tasked with building foundations, others with preserving truth through hardship. But your generation stands at a crossroads where old systems no longer hold and new ones are not yet stable. That in-between space requires people who can live in the modern world without being consumed by it. People who understand technology but are not ruled by it. People who can move through chaos without becoming chaotic. That is why you were selected. You may have wondered why life has felt heavier for you than it seemed to feel for those before you. Why the pace feels relentless, why distractions are constant, why clarity requires effort. This is not because you are weak. It is because the environment itself is intense. And God does not place light souls in heavy environments without preparation. You were built with depth, because shallow awareness cannot survive this era. Your spiritual awakening is happening in the middle of real life, not apart from it. You are not meant to retreat from the world or reject modern reality. You are meant to stand within it with balance. Divine purpose in your generation does not express itself through isolation. It expresses itself through grounded presence, through people who can work, create, communicate, and lead while remaining internally aligned. This is why you feel the tension between spiritual depth and practical responsibility. You were never meant to choose one over the other. You were meant to integrate them, to bring conscience into systems, to bring wisdom into conversations, to bring restraint into environments that reward excess. That is not easy work, but it is necessary work. The confusion you see around you is not random. It is the result of rapid change without grounding. God placed chosen ones in this generation to act as anchors, not to control others, but to stabilize themselves. Stability is contagious. Calm is influential. Clarity travels further than arguments ever could. Your role is not to shout truth, but to embody it so clearly that it becomes undeniable. Circle back to the beginning now. This is a message from God. You are not imagining why your generation feels different, heavier, more intense. You were called to stand where others wobble. The war is real, but it is not only fought with words or actions. It is fought with presence, integrity, and steadiness. Your light is necessary precisely because it can exist in this environment without being extinguished. You were not born too late. You were not born too early. You were born exactly when your strength was required. And even if you have doubted yourself, questioned your readiness, or felt overwhelmed by the scale of it all, know this: God does not misplace his servants. He equips them through the very conditions that feel most demanding. Let this settle in you with force and fire. You are here for a reason that goes beyond personal success or comfort. Your generation was selected because it could hold both truth and complexity at the same time. And you are part of that calling. If this touched your soul, if it brought clarity instead of fear and strength instead of doubt, comment 111. Because you know it now, without explanation or hesitation, you were called. December 2025. Acceleration. What is actually shifting? Chosen one, December 2025, is not a random marker, and it is not a dramatic countdown meant to create fear or excitement. This is God's message, bringing clarity to what you have already been sensing internally. Something is speeding up, but not in the way the world understands speed. This is not about chaos increasing. It is about alignment accelerating. It is about consequences becoming immediate, clarity becoming unavoidable, and paths becoming narrower and more defined. Acceleration does not mean life becomes easier. It means life becomes more honest. What once took years to reveal now takes months. What once could be avoided now confronts directly. For the chosen one, December 2025 marks a tightening of timelines. Delays that once served as protection are no longer necessary. Hesitations that once bought time now cost clarity. God removes the buffer when preparation is complete. This acceleration is not about comfort, it is about calling. Many people misunderstand this season because they associate acceleration with reward. But God accelerates responsibility before he accelerates ease. The pressure you may already be feeling is not punishment. It is confirmation that alignment is increasing. The closer you move to purpose, the less tolerance there is for misalignment. You may notice that your sensitivity has increased. Things that once felt neutral now feel wrong. Environments you once tolerated now drain you quickly. Conversations that lack depth exhaust you. This is not you becoming fragile. This is discernment sharpening. As timelines tighten, clarity must increase. God refines perception so that you do not waste time where you no longer belong. December 2025, acceleration also brings exposure. Not to shame, but to truth. Masks slip faster. Intentions surface quickly. People reveal who they are without long explanations. This can feel jarring. especially if you were used to giving others the benefit of the doubt. But acceleration removes confusion. It forces honesty, and honesty is necessary for alignment. For the chosen one, this means paths begin to separate clearly. What is aligned grows quieter but stronger. What is misaligned becomes louder and more chaotic before falling away. You may feel a sense of loss as certain relationships, habits, or identities dissolve. But this is not subtraction. It is refinement. God does not remove what you need. He removes what delays you. This is why delays end for the chosen one in this season. Delay is useful during formation, but it becomes harmful after readiness. You have already been prepared internally. You have already learned restraint, patience, and discernment. Now movement must match maturity. Acceleration begins when who you are can finally support where you are going. The war you feel intensifying is not external alone. It is internal alignment, confronting old compromises. You can no longer pretend you don't see what you see. You can no longer live half-aligned without feeling the tension immediately. This is not cruelty. It is precision. God narrows the path so that you do not wander when direction matters most. Do not confuse acceleration with urgency. Urgency creates panic. Acceleration creates focus. You are not being rushed. You are being refined. Each decision carries more weight now because each decision moves you further along a defined path. Neutral ground is disappearing, not as a threat, but as a mercy. Clarity saves time. Circle back to the beginning and hear this without fear. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the shift. You are called, and calling always comes with timing. The war is real, but so is the covering. And your light is necessary precisely because it can remain steady while everything else accelerates around it. You are not being asked to do more. You are being asked to be truer, to say yes where you once hesitated, to say no where you once compromised, to stand where you once waited for permission. Acceleration responds to obedience, not ambition. Let this land with strength and fire. December 2025 is not about destruction. It is about decision, not about endings, but about alignment becoming undeniable. You were built for this clarity. You were prepared for this speed, and you are not alone in it. If this touched your soul, if it named what you have been feeling without exaggeration or fear, comment 111, because you know it now with certainty. You were called. Why resistance increases right before activation? Chosen one, if the weight has felt heavier lately, if fatigue shows up without a clear cause, if doubt whispers even when you know better, hear this clearly. This is not failure. This is not weakness. This is resistance, and resistance increases precisely because activation is close. This is God's message bringing calm understanding to what might otherwise feel discouraging or isolating. Resistance is not a sign that you are off track. It is a sign that alignment is tightening. When you move closer to purpose, opposing pressure becomes more focused. Not louder but sharper. Not dramatic but persistent. The closer you get to activation, the less neutral ground exists, and that shift creates friction. What you are feeling is not personal weakness. It is spiritual resistance responding to movement. You may notice that simple things take more effort. Rest does not feel as restorative. Motivation rises and falls without warning. This is not because your strength is gone. It is because transition drains before it stabilizes. You are shedding old layers while learning to carry new weight. That process is tiring, even when it is necessary. God does not bypass this stage because endurance is part of preparation. Isolation often intensifies here. Old relationships feel distant. Familiar habits lose their comfort. Conversations that once sustained you now feel hollow. This is not punishment. It is alignment. As you shift internally, external connections that no longer match your frequency fall away naturally. Loss hurts, even when it is right. Loneliness does not mean you are alone. It means you are no longer surrounded by what once defined you. The loneliness of alignment is one of the least talked about aspects of being a chosen one. Walking with clarity in a confused world creates distance. Standing still while others rush creates misunderstanding. You may feel like you are paused while the world speeds up, but this stillness is not stagnation. It is positioning. God often asks his chosen to stand firm while others chase motion without direction. Doubt shows up here not because you lack faith, but because responsibility is becoming real. When calling moves from concept to reality, the mind tests every assumption. This is natural. Doubt does not disqualify you. Retreat does. And you are not retreating. You are standing, even when tired, even when unsure. That is strength. Understand this clearly. Spiritual resistance is not the same as personal weakness. Weakness avoids growth. Resistance confronts growth. What you are experiencing is pressure against expansion, and pressure always increases before breakthrough, not after. The war you feel is not imaginary. It is the natural response to light becoming more defined. Circle back to the beginning now and hear this without confusion. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the resistance. You are called, and calling disrupts comfort before it establishes purpose. The war is real, but it is not winning. Your light is necessary, and necessity attracts opposition before acceptance. You are not being asked to push harder. You are being asked to remain steady, to rest without quitting, to pause without doubting your direction. Activation does not come to those who rush. It comes to those who remain aligned under pressure. Let this strengthen you. What is falling away is not meant to follow you. What feels heavy is temporary. What feels quiet is preparation. You are closer than you think, not farther than you fear. If this touched your soul, if it named your experience without minimizing it, comment 111. Because you know it now, even in the resistance. You were called. What God is preparing you to carry. Chosen one, this is where the message shifts from who you are to what you are being trusted with. Divine purpose was never about being special, admired, or elevated above others. That misunderstanding has caused many to miss their calling entirely. God does not choose people to stand out. He chooses people to stand firm, and firmness is forged through weight, not praise. This is God's message clarifying what all the preparation has been leading toward. What God is forming in you is reliability under pressure, not talent without discipline, not passion without restraint, but steadiness when outcomes matter and clarity when emotions run high. You are being prepared to carry weight that would crush someone who still needs validation. That is why your path stripped you of shortcuts, applause, and external reassurance early. You were being trained to move without needing to be seen. Leadership in this season does not look like authority demanding attention. It looks like presence that stabilizes a room without speaking. It looks like wisdom that does not announce itself, but becomes obvious when decisions must be made. God is forming leadership without ego in you, because ego cannot be trusted with responsibility. Ego reacts. Ego defends itself. Ego needs recognition. And what you are being prepared to carry requires silence, humility, and restraint. Influence without noise is one of the rarest qualities in the world right now. Noise is everywhere. Opinions are loud. Certainty is performative, but influence that actually changes outcomes moves quietly. It listens first. It discerns timing. It speaks only when words will land with weight. You have always felt uncomfortable shouting your truth, not because you lacked conviction, but because you understood instinctively that truth does not need volume to be powerful. Being trusted with weight means being trusted when no one is watching. It means choosing integrity when compromise would be easier. It means staying aligned when shortcuts are available. God tests this long before responsibility becomes visible. That is why your life included moments where doing the right thing cost you something. Those moments were not random. They were assessments. You are being shaped to serve without needing recognition. This is one of the clearest signs of a true calling. Those who need acknowledgement cannot carry long-term responsibility because recognition becomes the reward instead of faithfulness. You have learned to work, endure, and remain committed even when no one applauded. That endurance was not wasted. It was conditioning. The steadiness forming in you is not passive, it is active restraint. It is knowing when not to act, when not to speak, when not to react. In a world that rewards constant response, restraint is power, moral clarity is power, wisdom that refuses to be rushed is power. And these are the qualities God entrusts with influence during unstable times. You may have wondered why your life felt heavier than others, why responsibility found you early, why consequences seemed sharper for you. This is because what you are being prepared to carry affects more than just you. God does not allow those he trusts with weight to live casually. Carelessness costs too much at higher levels of responsibility. Circle back to the beginning now and hear this clearly. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the seriousness you feel about life. You were called not to escape the world, but to move through it with integrity intact. The war is real, but it is not won through force. It is won through clarity, steadiness, and people who refuse to be corrupted by pressure. Your light is necessary because it does not flicker under strain, because it does not demand attention to exist, because it can carry truth without becoming rigid and compassion without becoming weak. God is preparing you to be trusted when others panic, to be clear when others react, and to remain aligned when others compromise. This is not about destiny as fantasy. This is about responsibility as reality. You are not being elevated above others. You are being positioned beneath weight that requires strength of character. And you would not be here, hearing this, feeling this, if that strength were not already being formed within you. Let this settle with force and fire. You are not behind. You are not unqualified. You are being prepared to carry something that matters, and preparation always comes before release. If this touched your soul, if it confirmed what you have felt but never needed to announce, comment 111, because you know it now with certainty. You were called. Final confirmation and call to alignment. Chosen one, we come back now to where this message began, because truth always completes a circle. This was never random, this was never imagination, this was never coincidence. This is God's message, and it reached you intentionally, precisely, and on time. You did not arrive here by accident, and you are not hearing this by chance. You were called, and calling always comes with confirmation. Nothing you have felt throughout this message was planted by suggestion. It was activated by recognition. That calm seriousness, that quiet certainty, that feeling of this explains something I've always known, is alignment responding to truth. You are not imagining the weight you carry. You are not exaggerating the responsibility you feel. You are not alone in sensing that something real is unfolding. God does not whisper to everyone, but He is clear with those who are listening. This is your invitation to stop drifting passively through what you already know is true. Alignment is not something that happens to you. It is something you accept consciously. Stillness is required now, not hesitation. Responsibility is required, not fear. Grounded faith is required, not emotional reaction. Faith in this season is not loud. It is steady. It does not demand certainty about the future. It commits to integrity in the present. You are a chosen one, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to be accountable to truth. Divine calling does not remove struggle. It gives struggle meaning. It gives pressure purpose. It gives restraint direction. Everything in your life that once felt confusing now fits into a larger pattern of preparation. God has been shaping you quietly, carefully, and deliberately. The war you have sensed is real, a war for attention, for conscience, for clarity, for light, but you were never meant to fight it with force. Your role has always been to carry light without panic, truth without ego, and steadiness without fear. Your light is necessary because it does not depend on conditions to exist. It remains when noise fades and systems fail. If you feel aligned with this message, acknowledge it now by commenting 777. Let it be a marker, not for anyone else, but for you. A moment where you recognize alignment instead of questioning it. From here forward, your task is simple, though not easy. Remain clear. Remain honest. Remain grounded. Do not rush to prove anything. Do not retreat to avoid responsibility. Walk steadily, speak when necessary, and trust that timing is already working in your favor. God does not rush His chosen, He positions them. This message does not end with urgency, because urgency belongs to fear. It ends with confidence, because confidence belongs to truth. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not unprepared. You are exactly where you need to be to step forward with awareness instead of reaction. Circle back to the truth one last time. This is a message from God. You are not imagining the call. You were chosen for this season, for this weight, for this responsibility. The war is real, but so is the protection. And your light is not optional. It is necessary. If this touched your soul, if it confirmed what you already knew deep inside without needing proof, comment 111. Because you know it now calmly and clearly, you were called.